Neighbor was driving me crazy, so I did this. We moved into the cul-de-sac last spring, drawn in by the promise of quiet suburban life. David, my fiancé, was thrilled about the bigger yard. I was ecstatic about the silence. Perfect for my work-from-home graphic design job. Our previous apartment building was a symphony of late-night parties and early morning construction, a constant drain on my focus. Brenda, from across the street, was the first to welcome us. Picture the poster child for suburban cheer, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, a dazzlingly white smile, and a casserole dish overflowing with questionable pasta bake. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she chirped, her voice a shade too loud. "We're so glad to have you. I'm Brenda, and this is my little slice of paradise." I appreciated the gesture, honestly. It felt neighborly. David was immediately charmed, already picturing us at block parties and summer barbecues. I, however, felt a slight unease. Brenda's energy was intense. The first red flag was subtle. A Saturday morning, I was deep in a design project, headphones on, completely absorbed. Suddenly, a jarringly loud pop song shattered the silence. I peered out the window. Brenda was power washing her driveway, blasting music from a portable speaker. Okay, I thought, it's Saturday. People do yard work. I cranked up my own music and tried to refocus, but it wasn't a one-time thing. It became a pattern. Brenda's life was a constant, noisy performance. There were the daytime dance parties on her lawn, the shrieking laughter of unsupervised children, the endless stream of delivery trucks and visitors. And then there was Brenda herself, always eager to strike up a conversation, often at the most inopportune times. I tried to be polite. "Brenda, I work from home, and sometimes it gets a little loud," I ventured one afternoon, as she was supervising a water balloon fight that threatened to engulf my car. She beamed. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Kids will be kids, you know, but I totally understand. I'll try to keep it down." She didn't. David, ever the optimist, kept telling me to cut her some slack. "She's just being friendly, Sarah. Maybe you're just not used to having neighbors." He meant well, but it felt like he was minimizing my concerns. It escalated. Her kids started using my flower beds as a shortcut, leaving a trail of broken stems and muddy footprints. A rogue soccer ball shattered a decorative gnome. Brenda's response? A dismissive, "Oops, they didn't mean to." My work started to suffer. Deadlines were missed, projects were delayed, and my clients were starting to notice. The once pristine silence of my home office had been replaced by a cacophony of suburban chaos. Then came the rumors. I overheard snippets of conversations at the mailbox, whispers about that stuck-up graphic designer who never comes out of her house. Brenda, of course, played the concerned friend, but I saw the glint of satisfaction in her eyes. The tipping point came during a crucial conference call. I was presenting a major design concept to a potential new client, a project that could make or break my year. As I was explaining my vision, the unmistakable sound of a lawnmower roared to life right outside my window. Not just any lawnmower, but Brenda's industrial-strength gas guzzler, running circles around her perfectly manicured lawn. I fumbled through the presentation, my voice strained against the noise. The client, understandably, was unimpressed. The call ended abruptly. I stormed across the street, my carefully constructed composure finally shattered. "Brenda," I yelled, my voice shaking. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She stopped mowing, a picture of innocent surprise. "Oh, hi, Sarah, just doing a little yard work. Is everything okay?" "Okay." "No, everything is not okay. You know I was on a call. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" She widened her eyes. "Sarah, I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you're just stressed." "You need to relax." Mark, Brenda's husband, emerged from the garage, a beer in his hand. He looked from me to Brenda, then back to me. "Everything all right here?" He mumbled, clearly wanting no part of the drama. "Your wife is deliberately sabotaging my work," I said, my voice rising. Brenda scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses." That was it. Something snapped. I realized then that polite requests, reasoned arguments, and appeals to common decency were utterly useless. I was dealing with a force of nature, a suburban hurricane fueled by sugar and passive aggression. I walked back to my house, my mind racing. David tried to comfort me, but I brushed him off. This wasn't something he could fix with his optimistic pronouncements. This was a war, and I was finally ready to fight back. That night, I sat down at my computer and started planning. I couldn't confront Brenda directly. She'd just deny everything and play the victim. No, this had to be subtle, insidious, and utterly deniable. I needed to exploit her weaknesses, turn her own tactics against her. First, the lawn. Brenda was obsessed with her perfectly green, weed-free lawn. I spent hours researching the most insidious, difficult to eradicate weeds. I discovered something called Creeping Charlie. It was virtually impossible to get rid of without using harsh chemicals, which Brenda would never do. She was all about organic gardening. I ordered a packet of Creeping Charlie seeds online. Under the cover of darkness, armed with gloves and a trowel, I carefully spread the seeds along the border of her lawn, right where it met the sidewalk. It wouldn't be immediately noticeable, but within a few weeks it would start to spread, a verdant green plague creeping across her precious turf. Next, her online presence. Brenda fancied herself a photographer. She had a small, amateur photography business, taking pictures of babies and pets. Her website was cringeworthy. I created a fake online profile, posing as a disgruntled customer. I wrote a scathing review, detailing a fictional experience with Brenda's unprofessional behavior and mediocre photography skills. I even included a poorly photoshopped image to make it look like she had delivered blurry, poorly lit photos. Then there was the gossip. Brenda thrived on it. I started feeding her carefully crafted false information about other neighbors, knowing she would spread it like wildfire. A little tidbit about Lisa and Tom's secret financial troubles. A suggestion that Mrs. Gable was considering selling her house to a developer. I watched with satisfaction as the neighborhood's carefully maintained veneer of politeness began to crack, replaced by suspicion and whispered accusations. Finally, I started subtly disrupting her daily routine. I knew she went to the gym every morning at 8 a.m. I started parking my car in front of her driveway, blocking her in for a few minutes. Just long enough to make her late, to throw off her carefully planned schedule. Each act of revenge was small, almost insignificant on its own. But collectively, they started to take their toll. The first sign that my plan was working was Brenda's lawn. The Creeping Charlie had taken root, spreading like a green stain across her once perfect turf. I saw her out there one afternoon, frantically pulling at the weeds, her face flushed with frustration. Her online business started to suffer. The negative review, combined with the general discord in the neighborhood, had scared away potential clients. I noticed she was spending less time taking pictures and more time obsessively checking her website. The gossip I had planted was bearing fruit. The neighbors were starting to avoid Brenda, whispering behind her back, their smiles tight and forced. She was no longer the queen of the cul-de-sac. She was an outcast. The noise started to subside. The daytime dance parties became less frequent. The children's screams were replaced by an uneasy silence. Brenda, once the life of the party, seemed withdrawn and preoccupied. David, oblivious to my machinations, noticed the change in Brenda's behavior. See, Sarah, maybe she was just going through a phase. People change. I just smiled and nodded. The culmination of my efforts came a few weeks later. I was sitting in my office, working on a new project, enjoying the blessed silence. I looked out the window and saw Brenda struggling to load a bag of garbage into her car. The bag ripped, spilling trash all over her driveway. She stood there for a moment, staring at the mess, her shoulders slumped. Then she burst into tears. I felt a twinge of guilt, but it was quickly overshadowed by a sense of satisfaction. I had finally achieved what I set out to do. I had restored the peace and quiet of my home. I watched as she cleaned up the mess, her movements slow and defeated. Mark came out of the house and put his arm around her. They stood there for a moment, a picture of suburban despair. The cul-de-sac was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Mrs. Gable, across the street, was sitting on her porch, watching the scene unfold. She caught my eye and gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. I went back to my work, my mind clear, my focus sharp. The silence was broken only by the gentle hum of my computer. It's been a few months now. Brenda and Mark put their house up for sale. I heard they are moving out of state. No more daytime parties, no more screaming children, no more forced smiles and saccharine sweet greetings. The cul-de-sac is quiet again. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm sitting on my porch, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. I look across the street at Brenda's empty house, and I wonder if she knows, if she suspects. And I wonder if, even miles away, the war is truly over, or if it's just entered a new, even more insidious phase.